From the very beginning of his career, Clay Aiken has possessed a distinctive voice, which is not just the instrument that propelled him from his North Carolina classrooms to the heights of pop success, but also the genuine, unvarnished perspective that he has kept throughout his 2-decade-long career in the public eye. He is now offering a critique that has been voiced by longtime fans for years. The program has changed, and not in a positive way. This comes as the former American Idol runner-up muses on the show that launched his career. In a recent interview with Billboard, Aiken, who is widely known for having come in second place to Ruben Studdard in the second season of American Idol, discussed his memories of the early days of his Idol fame, the time he spent on the show, and the changing character of the most impactful singing competition in television history. What he disclosed has touched a nerve that is felt throughout the world of pop culture and the Idol fans. American Idol is no longer the platform that it once was, which focused on contestants and discovering new talent, as Aiken has stated. Instead, he claims, it has been transformed into something quite different. A spectacle that is driven more by celebrity judges than by the raw ability of undiscovered singers who are trying to get their big break on the road to fame. The individuals who took part in the competition were the main attraction during the early seasons. The foundation of Aiken's longing for the early years of Idol is based on authenticity and personal knowledge. In the year 2002, when the show was first shown to the public, it was unlike anything that had ever been seen before on American television. The impact of a music reality television series that was shown in primetime was so great that it influenced a whole generation of pop culture. The experiment was an unproven one, and no one anticipated its impact. However, according to Aiken's recollection, the sculpted lighting, theatrical elements, and even the drama were not the elements that contributed to the show's magical quality. The individuals who were the participants in the competition were ordinary vocalists, and their narratives, difficulties, and vocal abilities enchanted the hearts of millions of people. According to an interview that Aiken gave to Billboard, the contestants were the focus of the first few seasons of American Idol. The following individuals were all the stars of the show: Kelly Clarkson, Justin Guarini, Tamira Gray, and Nikki McKibbin. Those names were invoked by him in a manner that was reverential. They are emblematic of the chaotic, passionate, unpredictable, and very human period known as the Age of Idols. The contestants were not refined, and they were not packaged. They were genuine, and the crowds appreciated them for being so. Aiken went on to say, "And when I was on, Ruben, Kimberly Locke, and I were the stars of the show. At this point in time, Idol is mostly focused on the judges. I am not even sure if they have forgotten that there are still contestants or not." His statements carried a lot of weight since they were a reflection of the sentiments that numerous long-term supporters had harbored but seldom heard articulated with such frankness. The judges were the main attraction of the show. When the cultural change became noticeable is evidenced by the fact that it was apparent as American Idol entered its 12th season. In an effort to remain current, the show, which had been on the air for more than a decade, changed itself frequently, much like any other aging series would. However, the center of gravity shifted at some point throughout the process. Aiken stated, "Over the course of the 12 years that American Idol has been on the air, there have been changes to the panel of judges," and then went on to enumerate the various celebrity personalities who have come and gone. Simon Cowell and Paula Abdul were the original judges for the show. They left the series, as did Ellen DeGeneres and Cara DioGuardi, who came and went. Jennifer Lopez and Steven Tyler were the last judges to remain on the show, and they were a part of it for 2 seasons. The only person who has stayed behind is Randy Jackson. In the beginning, the judges were there to provide support to the contestants. The program was made to be fun to watch by the relationship that developed among Paula Abdul's maternal spirit, Randy Jackson's musical foundation, and Simon Cowell's unabashed honesty, but it never managed to overshadow the singers themselves. They were the side dish and not the main course. However, as time went on and Idol faced increased competition from formats like The Voice and X Factor, which also focus on talent, it started to rely more and more on celebrity power. The celebrities were given prominence by the makers. The panel of judges didn't just play a role in the show. They were the entire focus of the show. With the roster that was introduced for Season 12, which consisted of Keith Urban, Nicki Minaj, Mariah Carey, and Randy Jackson, and received a significant amount of publicity, the moment of change was reached. The center of attention changed significantly just at the very moment when the panel was made public. Headlines that are preoccupied with the reported conflict between Carey and Minaj speculation spread like wildfire throughout social media platforms. The tension was reported on by segments of television news programs. One Australian network even went as far as to make their supposed conflict the focal point of their marketing efforts. The story was no longer focused on the vocalists who yearned to become victorious. The question was whether or not the judges would be able to get through the auditions without having a fight. The change constituted a departure from what made Idol unique in Clay Aiken's eyes. The time period of the competitors as opposed to the time period of the adjudicators. It is essential to take a moment to reflect on exactly how distinct the first few seasons were in order to grasp the reason why Aiken's comments strike such a profound chord. The show propelled previously unknown performers to the status of instant celebrities in the past. Cocktail waitressing was one of the jobs that Kelly Clarkson held. The musician Justin Guerin hailed from the state of Pennsylvania and was still in his youth. Tamara Gray was an actress who was not very successful. Nikki McKibbin was a single mother who was doing her best to make sure that she could cover her basic expenses. In addition, Clay Aiken's presence was not originally intended for Season 2. His initial audition was unsuccessful in impressing the judges. However, he subsequently returned with a different appearance and a voice that was impossible to ignore. His narrative, the story of a self-conscious, bashful underdog who evolves into a formidable vocalist, brought together supporters from all throughout the nation. Ruben Studdard made himself into a national treasure by virtue of his smooth, rich baritone voice and unassuming demeanor. Their music and their friendship were equally beloved. The narrative of the season was made more complex and interesting with the addition of Kimberly Locke, who brought a sense of richness with her heartfelt voice and consistent accent. It was the contestants, not the judges, who were driving the season. Instead than arguing about the backstage feuds, the audience members discussed the performances. During commercial breaks, the only thing that was discussed by the fans was the verbal runs, not the back-and-forth insults. America developed an affection for the participants, who were characters in a story that actually took place. However, this is not always the case these days. The judges, who may be divers battling with each other, comic characters, or high-profile celebrities with busy schedules, frequently eclipse the singers. Aiken's goal is not to critique each of the recently appointed judges individually. Keith Urban is one of the most well-acclaimed judges in the history of Idol, and he is also considered to be one of the most experienced and considerate judges. Mariah Carey is a well-known vocalist. Unpredictability and charisma were brought by Nicki Minaj. Glamour and a sense of comfort were offered by Jennifer Lopez. Steven Tyler brought along some rock star grit. Each of them brought about color and diversity on their own. However, when they were seen as a group, they transformed the identity of the performance. At what point does the brand become the judges? The branding of American Idol had a change from a media standpoint. The presentation stopped marketing itself by using montages of the most emotional auditions or accomplishments of the participants. The way that it advertised itself included the judges, their resumes, their personalities, their style, and their sound bites. The promotional posters have been given a new look. The judges were given the most prominence. The focus of the interviews was on the celebrities who were seated at the table as opposed to those who were positioned in front of it. The change might be seen as a reflection of a more widespread cultural trend. Audiences are captivated by conflicts between celebrities, entertainment that is driven by personality, and dramatic storylines. The success of reality television shows, like As the Voice, is highly dependent on the rapport and rivalry that exists amongst the judges. Idol changed with the times as new formats appeared. However, according to Aiken's perspective, the price that was paid was genuineness. When judges are given more attention than the candidates, the latter become little more than accessories. Their adventures are rendered less important as a result of the theatricality that surrounds them. Rather than the program functioning as a means of uncovering undiscovered talent, it becomes a means of promoting a celebrity's brand. According to Aiken, the original series was never intended to have that kind of atmosphere. Yearning for that which the idol is unable to reacquire. There is a subdued sadness that permeates the remarks that Aiken makes. This is not bitterness, but rather a feeling of yearning for something that, regrettably, can never be experienced again. The charm that was present in the early episodes of American Idol is something that contemporary television is unable to reproduce. The world had changed. Social media was not yet powerful enough to transform candidates into overnight sensations or fuel for viral memes. Radio, compact discs, and traditional promotion continued to be the dominant forces in the music industry. The concept of reality television was both new and exciting. The participants that competed in the first few seasons of the show were not influenced by the internet or strategic branding. They did not come into the competition with streams, sponsorships, or social algorithms on their minds. They were drawn to the opportunity to sing, the prospect of getting a chance, and their faith in the idol dream that was advertised. And the United States of America shared their belief. The show was the participants' domain, and Clay Aiken is correct in saying so. The legacy of Aiken and his demand for genuineness. It is simple to overlook how significant Clay Aiken's influence has been. Record-breaking voting numbers were seen during the second season. The question of whether he or Ruben was more deserving of the crown was a point of great contention among the supporters. Powerful, theatrical, and full of emotion, his voice was unlike any other. His narrative was easy to identify with. Millions of people were attracted to his charisma. The first CD that Aiken released was among the most successful releases that had came out after someone had participated on Idol. Millions of his recordings were sold. Presidents have been in attendance at his performances. He had a starring role on Broadway. He went on to become an important part of the culture that goes far beyond reality TV. The discovery of performers who were not already famous, but who could become world-renowned because people loved them, is the very thing that American Idol originally represented, and his success is confirmation of this. Aiken is not being egotistical when he states that the show has undergone changes. He is speaking from a place of personal experience, from memory, and from a place of motivation to keep the essence of the program that has defined his life. A dissuasion of the things that Idol ought to be. Clay Aiken's critique is not a condemnation, rather, it is a call to action, an encouragement for producers to place more emphasis on the vocalists, a call to action for audiences to pay attention to the talent rather than the drama, an opportunity for the industry to keep in mind that even though they can come from ordinary individuals, exceptional voices can still be heard. The fact that the United States fell in love with the candidates on American Idol, who appeared under the spotlight with shaking hands and enormous aspirations, is what turned the show become a sensation. It was not due to any feuds, headlines, or rivalries among the judges. The honesty and emotional connection that characterized its initial years are what Aiken's comments evoke when they bring the show back to its beginnings. It remains to be seen whether or not Idol will truly return to that spirit. However, because of Aiken, the discourse has commenced. And maybe, in some place in the United States, a young singer will be watching from their home and will be motivated not by the judges, but rather by the conviction that they, too, have the potential to become the star of the story, just like Clay was once upon a time.